Good afternoon, everyone. The hour being 5:30 on April 9th, 2024, I will now call the Public Works and Service Committee meeting to order. First, I will introduce our aldermen. I am the chair, Molly Jones. Alicia Jarrett is the assistant chair. Alder Olivia Davis, Alder Henry Perez, and Alder Renee Kelly is absent. Staff, Commissioner of Public Works, John Rooney, to my right. Assistant Commissioner of Public Works, Ron Pritzloff, to my left. Chief Engineer is Ira Mulder, and our administrative assistants, who will be taking our minutes this afternoon, is Kendra Hipshin. Thank you so much. I will now turn this over to Mr. Pritzloff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public hearing for anyone, their agent or attorney, to state their support of or objection to the proposed street improvement paving projects. Public comments, letters, and petition will be made part of the record of this hearing and will be taken under consideration when the committee determines which streets will be approved, disapproved, or modified for improvement at its next scheduled meeting. There will be no action taken on streets proposed at tonight's hearing. Each proposed street or alley improvement paving project will be announced and considered individually. Each proposed project will be on displayed during the public hearing for reference and information. You only need to state your name, address, and if you are in favor of or opposed to your street or alley's accessible project. If it is a street assessment project, you will need to also state your preference of bituminous versus concrete. There is no need to explain your position. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Property owners who do not wish to speak at tonight's public hearing but do wish to state their support or objection can send a letter to the Commissioner of Public Works. Letters must be received within 10 days after the public hearing to be considered. All petitions and letters will be made a part of the record of tonight's public hearing. Property owner support or opposition to each project will be reported on a percentage of frontage basis to the Public Works and Services Committee at their next meeting. If the City of Racine determines to proceed with the proposed project, a final resolution shall be adopted by the Common Council. The City Clerk shall publish the final resolution as a Class 1 notice, and a copy of said resolution shall be mailed to every interested party. A person having an interest in land affected by the determination of the Common Council shall have 90 days after the date of notice to appeal the determination to the Racine County Circuit Court. Streets adopted for improvement and alleys adopted for paving this year will be bid for construction in the summer of the following year. After construction is completed and the construction contract is closed, the abutting property owners will be assessed for their portion of the project costs. Assessments under $200 must be paid in full. Assessments over $200 may be paid in 10 annual installments. Deferred payments to bear interest rate of 6% per annum on the unpaid balance. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pritzloff. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Rooney, who will present each street up for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go over a little bit about how these streets come up for public hearing, just to give you a little background on it, and then we'll take, as the chair directs, we'll take each individual street one at a time, and then those that have interest on that street can speak in favor or in objection for the proposed improvement. The reason that we bring streets forward for public hearing for road improvements is we have been directed as staff by Common Council by ordinance to bring up streets for public hearing that meet a couple criteria that they have approved. So we rate all of our streets on a grading scale from 100 to 0, 100 being a brand new street and 0 being basically being obliterated to basically gravel. So that pavement condition index we'll be referring to tonight. If a street falls below 40 on that pavement condition index rating, then it is eligible for public hearing. We get that number. We inspect all of our pavements annually. We do half the highways and arterials and collectors every year. We do a quarter of the local streets every year. And then we run that through an analysis and we determine what the pavement condition index is. It obviously goes down over time, and when it reaches below 40, at that point in time, it's more cost effective to have the street replaced than it is to continue to try to maintain it. So we'll talk a little bit about what the PCI of that street is. So that's one criteria. Another criteria is if the street was built originally out of something other than a permanent pavement, it's also eligible to be heard at public hearing for improvement. Streets that were built out of non-permanent pavements as determined by the Common Council, such as asphalt, bituminous, deep oil, unimproved gravel, those streets, when they finally reach a rating below 40, are eligible to be brought up for public hearing. If a street was built out of a permanent pavement, such as brick or concrete, or back in the day, macadam, they were built originally out of that, they would not be assessed to the abutting property owner. It'd be the city's responsibility to budget for those replacement of those streets when they reach their useful life. There are no macadam streets anymore, so what we have out there now for permanent pavements are brick or concrete streets. Once a street is approved through a public hearing and eventually is rebuilt, if it is rebuilt out of concrete, which is a permanent pavement considered by the Common Council, it won't come back for public hearing again. It'll be the city's responsibility in perpetuity for that. And the last criteria is like the frequency of which streets can be brought up. Again, this is by ordinance. We can't bring up a street for public hearing that has been brought up in the last 2 years. So we have to wait a little bit. If it gets denied by the Public Works and Services Committee and ultimately by the Common Council, then we are directed by the ordinance to wait 2 years and then bring it forward again. We don't bring it back annually. And then a little bit about the letter you might have received, giving you an idea of what the assessment rate is. The assessment rates are developed by the city engineer's office. This is based on information that we have collected, over all the years of what it costs to rebuild a road. In the example I'm showing on the screen, this is your pretty typical garden variety street in the city of Racine. Generally, our streets are 32 feet wide, and they have 2.5 foot curb and gutters on each side of that. So the cost to replace a typical city width street on a per front foot basis is represented on the graph that you hopefully can see on the screen. So these are the costs that we have developed and brought to Common Council to say, hey, this is the rate at which it costs to build the street, and this is what would be assessed to the abutting property owner on a front foot basis. So for simple math, if the rate was $100 and your lot was 40 foot wide, it would be $4,000. So that's how that number is established. This gives you an idea of the costs of road construction and what it's been like, over the last 10 years or so. So you can see, the cost is over doubled since 2015. So, you might have had a street up for public hearing, 2 or 5 or 6 years ago. You can get an idea of what the cost would have been then, but, the price of construction is going up. Let's just say a street were to be denied by committee and Common Council, and let's say in 5 years from now, it gets brought back in for public hearing again. This is just a mathematical projection, but based on the way the rates have been going, 5 years out from now, it could be over, $200 a front foot. Just to give you an idea of where costs have been in the past, where they are today, and where potentially they could go into the future. So that was the background on the accessible streets and public hearing. With that, if the chair wants to start with the first street, we can get started.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Our first street is Howard Street, Westwood Drive to the cul-de-sac. Commissioner Rooney.
Yeah, Howard Street is in the 6th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous pavement. It was placed in 1974. The PCI, or the Pavement Condition Index, is 24. This pavement width is 26 feet on the leg going into the cul-de-sac. This is a 50-foot right-of-way that the cul-de-sac exists in up to the bulb. The proposed improvements for this particular street are $140 a front foot for Portland cement concrete paving, or if you want bituminous concrete paving or asphalt done, it'd be $103 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation based on the ordinances. At this time, we have no feedback of any property owner for or against the proposed improvement. It's not to say we didn't get something in earlier today or late yesterday, but it was when this information was published a few days ago. We have received no data on anybody for or against. The last time this was before public hearing was in 2019.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Howard Street? Anyone here wishing to speak on Howard Street? Anyone here wishing to speak on Howard Street? Seeing none, I will declare Howard Street closed. Our next street is Howland Avenue, Rowe Avenue to West 6th Street. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Howland Avenue is in the 3rd Aldermanic District. The existing surface is asphalt. This was last placed in 2003. The pavement condition index is 36. The existing pavement width is 30 feet and a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $140 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $74 a front foot. Again, this is staff recommendation based on ordinance. At the time of this sheet that I am reading, we had received 3 emails in opposition for this proposed improvement that amounted to 22.96% of the total frontage on the project, and the last public hearing date for this particular improvement was held in 2019.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Howland Avenue? Anyone here wishing to speak on Howland Avenue? Anyone here wishing to speak on Howland Avenue? Seeing none, I would declare the public hearing for Howland Avenue closed. Our next street is Monroe Avenue, 20th Street to 19th Street. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Monroe Avenue is in the 11th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1971. The PCI is 22. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $85 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation based on the ordinance. At this time, we have had no feedback on anyone opposed or in favor of the proposed improvement, and the last public hearing for this street was held in 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Anyone here wishing to speak? Please, yes. Please state your name and address, please. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on Monroe Avenue? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on Monroe Avenue? Anyone else wishing to speak on Monroe Avenue? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing for Monroe Avenue closed. Next street up is North Wisconsin Street, the cul-de-sac to Carlton Drive. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. North Wisconsin Street is in the 15th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is deep oil, placed in 1968. The PCI is 23. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $96 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we've had one email in opposition to the project, and that frontage amounted to 24.98% of the frontage opposed. Last public hearing date was back in 2019.
Thank you. Anyone here wishing to speak on North Wisconsin Street? Please state your name and address.
Name is William Pope, 3665 North Wisconsin Street. And I believe everybody on the cul-de-sac has signed a petition opposing this. And I think, how much time do we have to get that to you? Because I oppose it as well.
So if you have a petition, you can either, if you have it with you, you can give it to Kendra. If not, you can deliver it to our office on the third floor by hand. You can mail it in, but we do need to have receipt of that petition by the end of business day next week, Friday. That's the 10-day period after tonight's public hearing. Then we can tally up whoever is in favor or against, and we can report the final percentages in 2 weeks to our next Public Works and Services Committee of how many are in favor and how many are against.
That sounds good. And I think Dave Olson across the street from me is the one that has the petition, and he's got everybody sign it. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on North Wisconsin Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on North Wisconsin Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on North Wisconsin Street? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing for North Wisconsin Street closed. Our next street is Crabapple Drive, Hickory Way to the cul-de-sac. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Crabapple Drive is in the 9th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1994. The PCI is 32. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvements are Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $108 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have one email in opposition to the proposed improvement, and that opposition amounted to 13.23% of the frontage. The last public hearing for this improvement was in 2020.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive? Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Natalie Brown, and it's 1513 Crabapple Drive, and I am opposed to it as well. I don't know what else I need to tell you. I have a lot I could say, but if that's all I'm allowed to say, then that's what I'm going to say. I'm not for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive? Please state your name and address.
Patrick Schwanke, 1540 Crabapple Drive, and I'm against it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive?
Mike Rutan, 1500 Crabapple. I'm also against the repaving. Is this a place where you can ask a question of how the method is and how you determine the price in terms of frontage? I unfortunately have a pie-shaped lot, and the pie portion does not does not really favor me. So there seems to be an inequality, especially in cul-de-sacs. And I guess I'm curious why the total frontage isn't taken into consideration and divided amongst all the property owners, rather than having the brunt on 2 or 3 owners that may have irregular shaped lots. I don't know if this is a place to ask that question, or if you can direct me who I can ask that to. I'd love to give them a call and ask them that.
Yeah, we can hopefully answer your question right here. So the frontage is assessed based on that footage, and we're doing that per state statute. There are irregularities, obviously, in cul-de-sacs that we have to calculate how much that frontage, because you have some lots that are very wide in the back, very narrow in the front, but they're all calculated to try to apportion that cost per the geometric shape of the lot. That may not seem very reasonable, but and the city engineer can follow up on this because his staff prepares the assessment reports. We do take into consideration corner lots, I can tell you that. So if you live on a corner and you could potentially have two streets being assessed, the Common Council has directed the city engineer's office and the Public Works Department to only assess a certain percentage of the longest side of a corner lot, as to not be too, I guess, onerous on the property owner. But that's the calculations that are used. I don't know if the city engineer wants to follow up on that calculation.
If I may just pose, and I realize I'm limited to amount of time, but there seems like there should be more than maybe an A, B, or C method, depending upon the geographic design of any particular subdivision, to make it more equitable for everybody versus a street where it's just a straight shot, and lots are typically pretty close in size, neighbor to neighbor, rather than, it almost seems like you're taking the path of least resistance, and it's easier. I think there'd be a little bit more of a thought process into what is more equitable for, and not just me, but other people in the same situation, because it appears that there are several cul-de-sacs, or at least two, maybe three here, that you guys have been discussing on doing. Now, on Crabapple, the road in front of my home is in darn good shape. It's 32, 40 is the benchmark. I've heard that you have several here that are below 30. So it appears that anyone in my situation seems to be pulling the weight for all the others further down the road. So maybe it's something, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's brought this up, but it seems like there could be another method for those irregular lots that should be under consideration.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is assessed by front footage, and so you get two perfectly rectangular lots side by side. One could be 60 foot in width, one could be 40 foot in width. They're going to be paying 50% more of the assessment. You could argue they're getting the same benefit, but the way it is apportioned per the statute is based on front footage, even though they each only have one lot. So I understand the argument, but you have to distribute the costs based on the front footage of the lot, and that meanders around the curves of the cul-de-sac and those other things. So,
well, that's fine. I don't agree with that. I think
I
it's
see your
unfair.
point, yeah.
I think it's unfair to a lot of people, just not me. And so I guess my last parting question would be, how do we get that changed? I mean, is that a state statute? Is that a city decision? It just seems like you have some inequalities for those folks that are paying for all that frontage, and then they have a tiny backyard, where the other guy might have a short frontage, but his yard's quite a bit larger. Backyard. He's enjoying his backyard maybe more than I am.
yeah, I completely understand your question. I guess if that's something you want to consider, you have to probably contact your alder or someone else in the Common Council and see if they wanted to further that discussion in front of a committee. But that's the way we are directed to assess for improvements as of right now.
Well, that's
Yeah.
a fair answer. That's a fair answer. But if there's a method, or maybe I could call you to maybe have a more of a
Absolutely.
and so that we can maybe right what I think is a wrong for a lot of homeowners. So That's it. But I'm against it. In principle, anyway.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive? Anyone else wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive? Anyone else wishing to speak on Crabapple Drive? Seeing no one, I will now declare the public hearing for Crabapple Drive closed. Our next street up is Deborah Lane, Delaware Avenue to Winthrop Avenue. Commissioner Rooney.
Yeah, state statute, so that's how we follow the state statute for the assessment procedure notification for public hearing. What the Common Council has done, for example, the example that I cited, would be for a corner lot. They felt that there was some inequity in that. So I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but if someone were being assessed for a road improvement and they lived on a corner lot and say their lot was 100 feet long and 40 feet wide, if the short side of their lot was facing a street that was up for public hearing, they would get an assessment letter for 40 feet. If the long side of their lot, the other street, was up for improvement, they would only get an assessment for 60% of that. And that has been put in practice for, I believe, over 30 plus years. That was set up that way. So there are adjustments that are made for certain situations, but there hasn't been one made for a cul-de-sac. Like I said, we have to apportion it based on the front footage. So as you can imagine, geometrically, there are cul-de-sacs that are, properties are somewhat narrow in front and wider in the back. Some are more wider and more uniform. But we have to assess it on that. You know, if there was some type of exception that Common Council wanted to consider, that'd be a discussion for another day. But as it stands, this is the way we assess per state statute and per the adjustments that are made that we have on file for 30 plus years. There's other exceptions as well, alleys that get assessed. You know, if you're on the T intersection of an alley, we have exceptions for that as well. That was approved by Common Council. You're welcome.
Next street is Deborah Lane, Delaware Avenue to Winthrop Avenue. Commissioner Rooney.
Deborah Lane is in the 10th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1971. The PCI is 20. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $86 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have 2 letters in favor of Portland cement concrete that amount to 8.91% of the frontage.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Deborah Lane? Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Hobus, and I live in 3144 Deborah Lane. I recently just moved there, so this is kind of new to me, but I am opposed of it as of right now. I know the road is not in the best of shape. I just know I have a lot of elderly folks live on that road, and if you close it down and work on it, they're going to have a hard time getting their houses for that time being. So as of right now, I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on Deborah Lane?
Yeah, Catherine Smith, 3161 Deborah Lane. About 5 years ago, I'm on the corner lot. So I've been hit for $5,000 for the side street about 5 years ago. Now you're telling me you want $10,000 for the front of my lot. But I noticed at the intersection, who pays for the intersections?
The intersections are paid for out of general obligation bonds.
Okay, that intersection comes about 15 feet onto my property, but you're charging me the whole front line to Delaware, to the edge of my property, not from that extra 15 feet that comes in from that intersection that was just done, according to your rates.
No, the front footage that you're being assessed for, it doesn't include the work that needs to be done in the intersection. That is taking out of the assessment that is paid for. If this project gets approved and it gets paid for out of general obligation bonds, it doesn't get assessed to anybody, any abutting property owner. So usually that ends where that right-of-way lines either curve or they come to a corner, and that's the property line itself. So.
Right. It's been done. That intersection has recently been done. I'm saying you're charging me from all the way to Delaware to the edge of the property this way when half of it's already been done because of that new intersection. But you're charging me the rate for the whole frontage, is what I'm saying. Now, also, don't we have lead pipes? Aren't you going to take care of those? And if you're going to take care of those, why are you going to tear up a street if you're going to turn around and do the lead pipes in a year or two?
Well, generally speaking, and if you think there's something wrong with your assessment, please contact Ara Mahler, the city engineer. We will double check it. I can't solve that problem right here, right now. But insofar as the lead water services, if any of these projects get approved, we go through utility coordination. We contact the gas company, electric company, water department, and see what improvements they need to make before the road is paved. So they will come in there, and we'll come in and replace sanitary sewers if necessary, or laterals. They'll take care of the lead water services. That gets coordinated.
Okay, fine. Then the state of Wisconsin, what did you get, $5.6 billion from the infrastructure bill? And how much of that is for exactly lead replacement?
Lead replacement isn't part of this contract. This is just for the repaving of the road.
I'm saying don't do it unless you're going to fix the pipes first, because it's silly to put in a new road and turn around and tear it up later.
That will get coordinated. If the project
right.
gets approved, the water department will be contacted. If there are lead services, they will get them replaced. If it doesn't get approved, they still may come in and do the lead services, but that's entirely up to the Racine Water Utility.
Oh. I'm opposed simply because of the fact that I've already paid $5,000 within the last 5 years, and you want a lot more now. And, that's a hard hit for somebody. I'm retired. I live on Social Security. That's it.
Understand.
Excuse me, ma'am. Yeah. Can we get you to repeat your name and address, please?
Catherine Smith, 3161 Deborah Lane.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on Deborah Lane? Anyone else wishing to speak on Deborah Lane? Anyone else wishing to speak on Deborah Lane? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing for Deborah Lane closed. Our next street is Monarch Drive, Emerson Hill Road to Regal Court. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Monarch Drive is in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 2007. The PCI is 22. The existing pavement width is 32 feet and a 66-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $81 a front foot. And if curb and gutter is installed, that would be assessed at $42 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation based on the ordinance. At this time, we have no feedback as to property owners in favor or against the proposed improvement, and the last public hearing date was in 2020.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Monarch Drive? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good afternoon. I am Briar Powell, 3421 Monarch Drive. I'm opposed to it. I think the road still looks all right to me. It still does its job pretty well. Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Fort 3413 Monarch Drive. I'm opposed to it, as I believe all 5 of us are, and I'll make sure everybody gets a petition in saying that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to Monarch Drive? Anyone else wishing to speak on Monarch Drive? Anyone else wishing to speak on Monarch Drive? Seeing none, I will now declare the public hearing for Monarch Drive closed. Our next street is Barbara Drive, cul-de-sac to Gulf Avenue. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in the 6th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1972. The PCI is 22. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 110-foot public right-of-way. Proposed improvements are Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $109 a front foot. This is staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have one email in opposition to the improvement, and that amounts to 3.44% of the frontage. The last public hearing date was held in 2021.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Barbara Drive? Anyone here wishing to speak on Barbara Drive? Anyone here wishing to speak on Barbara Drive? Seeing no one, I will now declare the public hearing for Barbara Drive closed. Our next street is Indiana Street, Durand Avenue to Pierce Boulevard. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indiana Street is in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1990. The PCI is 29. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $99 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have one email in opposition, resulting in 4.6% of the frontage. The last public hearing date was held in 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Indiana Street? Anyone here wishing to speak on Indiana Street? Please state your name and address, sir.
My name's Christopher Kelly. I live at 4303 Pierce Boulevard. I believe I'm the email that was opposed. I just wanted to come and make I am definitely opposed of it. And I have a question. Talk to about stop signs.
Generally speaking, you want to get a hold of your alder in your district, and then they generally will contact the city engineer's office, and then they usually do a cursory warrant study to see if criteria is met to install a stop sign, a yield sign, a four-way stop sign, and they do a couple of simple analysis and studies to gather the information, and then they'll let the alder know whether it's something that is warranted or something that simply is not needed. So, okay. And we'll actually have the complete listing at the public hearing, or at the Public Works and Services Committee in 2 weeks, of everybody's address and name, who is in favor, who is against. So I can't tell you if yours is the email that I'm referring to, but it will all be listed out for the alders to consider when we have all the public comment period. That period has come to a close, and we have all the comments in. You're welcome.
Anyone else wishing to speak on Indiana Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on Indiana Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on Indiana Street? Seeing none, I would now declare the public hearing for Indiana Street closed. Our next street is Lombard Avenue, North Main Street to Chatham Street. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lombard Avenue is in the 5th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 1974. The PCI is 28. The existing pavement width is 36 feet wide in a 60-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $99 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we've received 2 emails from abutting property owners opposed to the project, and that amounts at this time to 50.04% of the frontage opposed. The last public hearing date was 2021.
Commissioner Rooney. Anyone here wishing to speak on Lombard Avenue? Please state your name and address for the record. Can you come a little closer to the microphone and let's see if it's...
I had several questions, but now I have a bigger question. Susan Staley, 301 Lombard Avenue. I had several questions about how things are figured out and the factors used to determine street replacement approval. I live on the corner of Lombard and Chatham. One, we opposed the Chatham reconstruction, and there were 30% votes for no, 29 voted yes, according to when I called up the city to ask what the vote was. And abstentions were taken as yes votes. And under Robert's rules, the abstention does not count as a yes vote. But I was concerned when you were talking about 60% difference if you're doing both roads. $11,081.58, and actually the price came in cheaper, and we saved 42 cents on that construction.
So,
And now our Chatham thing is proposed at Lombard is proposed at $10,800.
Where's the 60% there?
Chatham is our longer street of our property.
longer frontage for your property. It's not the street length, it's how long your lot is on the corner. If you have more frontage on the one side, you get the reduction in the frontage for that side.
Can you clarify that? Which side do you want to know about? The front door?
Shorter than the side on Chatham.
The other side that faces east or the lake is the long.
That's the longer side of your lot is on Chatham Street.
Correct.
If that's the case, then that would have had a reduction in the frontage that would have been assessed without that 60% rule. Now, if pardon me?
Can you verify that?
Of course we can verify that. And you can follow up with the city engineer, can get your information from Kendrick and follow up with you on that. If your short side of your lot is on Lombard, then that is 100% of that length is assessed. Regarding your question about people being in favor or against, or nobody commented in favor or in opposition to the improvement, I just want to make sure everyone is clear. This is simply information that we're gathering to give to the Public Works and Services Committee, so they could make a recommendation to Common Council. The information that we gather about property owners who are in favor or against in those percentages, it's not a binding referendum. It's simply advisory. It's up to the discretion of the committee if they want to move this to the Common Council for final approval or final elimination, or if they want to do it at the committee level. So that it's just information for them to consider. It's not binding.
Basically, a feel good so that the voters can feel like they have voice.
Well, yeah, it's required by state law that we hold a public hearing and get this input in.
In your documents, it doesn't matter. Your vote won't matter.
Absolutely. I mean, a perfect example would be there could be an entire block with all residents vehemently opposed to an improvement on a street that just keeps deteriorating and deteriorating, and it gets to the point where, you know, basic services can be impacted. You can't, you know, you can't maintain the street anymore. You can't plow it. It could have impacts on a public safety response. Those things at that point, you know, that's the way the Public Works and Services Committee or the Common Council can determine whether a street will get approved, regardless of what the you know, the percentages are in favor or against. So they make that final determination.
I have two other questions. The first one is, in your letter, it doesn't say of a street. It doesn't tell you anything. Normal life of
About the normal, in the letter, we don't describe the normal life of the street? No, we don't put that in the letter. We have expectations on service life for various pavements out there. Some deteriorate a lot quicker than others. It's based on a variety of factors: the type of pavement, the amount of average daily traffic, the amount of truck traffic percentage that. I mean, we don't provide that information. Your street should last so long. In this case, on Lombard, you know, the road was paved 50 years ago, and it's a bituminous street. That's quite a long service life for a bituminous street.
I understand, but I'm just saying you don't have any comparison between bituminous. Help people intelligent to. The other question was on your 10-year plan for making the payment. Ask for an amortization. Or they're going to pay.
Yeah, that's information that I believe that is through the finance department when they allow property owners to defer those payments over a 10-year period, and they charge a percent interest, if you will. You know, those are essentially, they're managing individual loans. They set the rates, not us. What that actual financial cost is, that is a question, yes, for the finance department to answer. We don't give that actual information on the notice to you, what your actual cost would be if you decided to pay it over 10 years. That's a, you know, it's a choice that the property owner makes, and they can investigate that and say, I can pay it in a lump sum. I'll go check with the city. Maybe they want to go to their own financial institution and see if they can and get a better rate. So we don't provide that level of detail. We just let residents know that there is the option. You can defer it over 10 years through the city, and you have to pay an interest rate for that.
Own.
Yeah, it might be a question you want to bring up to your alder and talk to the Finance and Personnel Committee about these things. Of course, I think most people understand that they have that option. They can finance these. They can take home equity, you know, lines of credit. They can get second, whatever that way they could finance it. Nobody, I don't think this is being forced on anybody's. Again, the information I have, we might have not had the other property owner on here yet. Within 10 days of this public hearing, everything will be included, and that will be presented to this committee for consideration. So again, in real time, you know, we could have got something in today or yesterday, and it's just not represented here. It's not saying, I'm not saying what you're telling me is incorrect. I'm just saying it's not the information we had for tonight's public hearing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on Lombard Avenue? Anyone else wishing to speak on Lombard Avenue? Anyone else wishing to speak on Lombard Avenue? Seeing no further comments, I will declare the public hearing on Lombard Avenue closed. Our next street is Biscayne Avenue, Oakwood Drive to Monarch Drive. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Biscayne Avenue is in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 2006. The PCI is 37. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 66-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, or bituminous concrete pavement at $108 a front foot, and curb and gutter at $42 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have no information on whether anyone is opposed or in favor of the proposed improvement.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue? Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue? Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue? Seeing no one, I will declare the public hearing for Biscayne Avenue closed. Our next street is Biscayne Avenue, Southwood Drive to Princess Place. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Biscayne Avenue is in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 2007. The PCI is 27. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 66-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, bituminous concrete pavement at $116 a front foot, and curb and gutter at $42 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have one email in favor of Portland cement concrete paving and curb and gutter, and that amounts to 50% of the frontage.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue, Southwood Drive to Princess Place? Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue, Southwood Drive to Princess Place? Anyone here wishing to speak on Biscayne Avenue, Southwood Drive to Princess Place? Seeing no one, I would declare the public hearing for Biscayne Avenue, Southwood Drive to Princess Place closed. Our next street is Claremont Street, Biscayne Avenue to Admiralty Avenue. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 2005. The PCI is 21. The existing pavement width is 32 feet in a 66-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, bituminous concrete pavement at $90 a front foot, and curb and gutter at $42 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation. At this time, we have no one in opposition or for the improvement of this proposed project.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Claremont Street? Anyone here wishing to speak on Claremont Street? Please state your name and address for the record.
Janet Drazen, 3617 Claremont Street. I am opposed of it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I own two properties there, 3623 Claremont and 3629 Claremont, and I oppose it.
Can you just repeat your name again, please?
Polina Pudzisz.
Thank you.
Ebony Cunningham, and I'm the owner of 3622 Claremont Street, and I am opposing to it as well.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on Claremont Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on Claremont Street? Anyone else wishing to speak on Claremont Street? Seeing no one, I would declare the public hearing for Claremont Street closed. Our final street is King Circle, the cul-de-sac to Oakwood Drive. Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. King Circle's in the 14th Aldermanic District. The existing surface is bituminous, placed in 2009. The PCI is 35. The existing pavement width is 24 feet in a 66-foot public right-of-way. The proposed improvement is Portland cement concrete pavement at $150 a front foot, bituminous concrete pavement at $91 a front foot, and curb and gutter at $42 a front foot. This is a staff recommendation per the ordinance. At this time, we have 3 emails in opposition of the proposed improvement that amount to 37.94% of the frontage.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooney. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on King Circle, cul-de-sac to Oakwood Drive? Please state your name and address for the record.
Catherine Foster Moyet, 5146 Kings Circle. I oppose, and we do have a petition with everybody in the street signed, which you should be getting very soon.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Luis Gonzalez, 5140 Kings Circle. Also, I oppose to the street of King Circle. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak on King Circle? Anyone else here wishing to speak on King Circle? Anyone else here wishing to speak on King Circle? Seeing no one, I would declare the public hearing for King Circle closed, and that concludes our streets for this afternoon. Thanks, everyone. We will adjourn for 5 minutes before we start the Public Works meeting.